Hello, dear friends. I'm Vitalii Portnikov. Western media continue to inform horrible details of Moscow plans about occupation of Ukraine, and some details that impressed even those who know a little bit about intelligence data. They include detailed list of those persons whom Russian occupants are planning to arrest or shoot out in case they manage to occupy Ukraine. To me personally, this news doesn't come as a surprise. Just because I know history, and I remember how Soviet Bolsheviks destroyed everybody who were disagreeing with their human-hating ideology immediately after they came to power. And the Soviet Union managed to hold as long as it managed to hold, in particular because in the first years of Bolshevik rule, they destroyed almost everybody who were ready to fight with the bandit regime. And the situation was even more difficult in the countries occupied by Soviet Russia, such as Ukraine or Georgia states or Baltic states, where Bolshevik destroyed a national elite, starting with those who opposed the Bolshevik ideology and ending with those representatives of national elite who believed that it is possible to cooperate with Bolsheviks and to use them to develop their own national states. And instead of developed national states, they received plain wild field. A lot of tragedies, many of that we remember till now. But why do we need to go deep in history when I myself saw with my own eyes how the situation develops in the Russian Federation after Vladimir Putin became its president? I remembered a conversation with a famous Russian politician Galina Starovoitova, who was an icon of the Russian democratic movement and was counsel to Boris Yeltsin. Galina Starovoitova told me that from her own sources she received information that at the meeting of the veterans of national security, veterans of the Soviet Union, chaired by one of last KGB leaders of the Soviet Union, Kryuchkov, they agreed to remove from political arena people with democratic views. And obviously, as we understand it now, it was 1 or 2 years before Putin's rise to power. It was necessary so that these people do not prevent FSB to establish a rule over Russia. Galina Starovoitova told me that she was third on this list, but she told me also that she didn't understand how they were going to remove her, how they were going to compromise her when she did not partake in any corrupt schemes and she was involved exclusively in political activity. I remembered this conversation when I learned about murder of Galina Starovoitova in St. Petersburg. And how many more famous Russian politicians, journalists and lawyers were victims of FSB and Cheka madness before and after Putin rise to power, and how many more people will be destroyed so that to prevent them to intervene with plans of FSB and corrupt Russian cronies. And it is absolutely obvious that on the occupied territories they will impose the same rules, the same methods. And many Ukrainians who listen now to the news about possible Russian occupation, it looks surreal. And there are some people, Ukrainian, who think that in case of occupation, it will look in the form of Soviet Union, of Brezhnev time, that it will be, the only difference will be in the flag, that instead of Ukrainian flag, it will be a Russian flag and it will be no prosecutions. No, it will not be this way. You do not even imagine what regime you are about to face if Russia occupies Ukrainian territory. How people will disappear, people known to you and not known, how black cars will be arriving to your houses, and how you will be learning the news about concentration camps in Ukrainian cities under the rule of Russian occupants, just the same way as it is in now going in Luhansk and Donetsk regions. After all, a concentration camp isolation in Donetsk is a very good example of how Russian occupants imagine justice. They don't have any notion about justice. They destroy any alternative opinion. After all, we should remember that people who are being put in the basement are not exclusively Ukrainian patriots. They also include people who support generally occupational regime, but they just have certain disagreements with about how things should run, or they don't belong to a certain ruling clan. So you shouldn't harbor an idea that your positive, loyal views towards Putin or Russia will protect you from being put into basement. I myself know several people who are my former colleagues from Radio of Liberty, who became victims of repressions in the occupied Crimea and in Donetsk. And I know some people who always had pro-Russian views, and some of them even came to occupied territories and planned to build their career, and they all ended in the same basement with Ukrainian patriots. Yes, of course, they will start with the patriots, and there will be imprisonment and purging and arrests, and they will shut up independent journalists, not with censorship but with a machine gun burst. And we need to understand clearly how everything will look. But after that, they will come after those people who now think that nothing will be changed if Russia occupies Ukraine. No, everything will change. Your feeling of rights and your feeling of safety will change. You will be in a nightmare that will not end until then, when the occupants will be driven from Ukrainian lands, until the soil will burn under the legs of the occupants and collaborators. But before that, if they come here, they will bring so much tragedies, so much suffering, that I don't want even to touch on that now. We see what drama unfolds before our eyes with our citizens who live on the occupied territories of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and they are now being used by occupying authorities as hostages in order to create a pretext for Putin and his crony, a good excuse to attack Ukraine, and to justify this attack for Russian citizens on Russian TV, if not for the world who does not believe a single word of Russian president. And we need to understand clearly that the same hostages of Putin plans will become all Ukrainians who will be living on the occupied by Russian regime territories of our country. There will not be any difference. The only difference will be is just some people will become first victims of this horrible occupation, and some will be next victims. And that's why it is so important that the world deters the Russian state, Putin state, from destruction of our country, our freedom, our future. Thank you, friends. Stay on my channel and subscribe.